Okay, we are going to go ahead now and dive right into some tarot reading. And what we are going to look at today is what to release and what we need to bring in, blessings, blocks, opportunities. And then I'm going to switch decks and do a little bit more expanded reading for you. Hopefully some folks are going to start joining us. All right. Light Seers Tarot is what we're using today. And I'm just going to go ahead and put these out face up so that I can get a real feeling for where this is going as we move forward with it. Our 4 cards are out. All right. This is interesting. Swords are showing up again. And if you follow me and you saw this week's reading, we had the Queen and the Page of Swords. And it was about communication, especially coming out of Mercury retrograde and you know, how muddled up we can get around that time. And boy, clear communication in all aspects of our life. We're really stepping into that energy in a great way. So what really is interesting to me, what came up for what to release is the 7 of Swords. And I'm going to hold this up for you to take a look at. I think the print is reversed, but the 7 of Swords, you know, this is about someone or some aspect of our lives that perhaps we are either not being quite honest with ourselves and truthful. That be real message is coming in real clear right now from our Moonology card. Or someone else in our lives is not being straightforward with us. And you know, and it's about taking resources. If you remember the Rider-Waite Smith 7 of Swords, it's a person that's almost gleefully, sneakily taking away weapons from an encampment and kind of going, okay, I've got all the resources, and we don't really know what is happening next with those resources. What has it done to the troops or whatever they are in the encampment and their possibility for success the next day? And, you know, so let's not be doing this to ourselves. I think that's coming through. And I love how this raven, the ravens represent the swords in this deck. This raven is just like almost shouting out loud, calling the alarm in my mind of what's going on with this person that's sneaking away. Got the dagger in his hand and there's feathers on his back, which again represent the swords. But the full moon is illuminating this. So what are you going to get away with, guy? You know, really, what is going to happen here? What is going to happen here that isn't going to come out in the full daylight or the moonlight, as so to speak. So if this is you, I would just again say, get real. Don't think that you are going to keep something hidden that is just going to come out sooner or later. This might be really, again, the time to speak your truth. Clear the air. You know, this isn't a good feeling. This is that anxiety we were just talking about with the Moonology card. Let's not go there. Let's be transparent. Let's say our say. Let's stand up for ourselves and not feel like we're going to be put in this position. And again, if I would say, if this is someone in your circle of influence, it's time to just maybe take a look and talk about details and get to the crux of the matter with that person. So this is the release energy, and it totally makes sense to me where we're at with this week, with the weekly reading, and now this full moon energy. What a beautiful time to let that anxiety go, be transparent, be open. And remember, you don't have to tell everyone everything. You know, be judicious with what you share and share it with those people that have love and best interest for you in their heart. All right, let's take a look now at blessings. What's coming in? What energy do we want to bring in? And this is fascinating. Again, 6 of Swords, still in that air, still in that logic, that intellect. But this is the moving on card. This is, I have sorted out my baggage. I have figured out what I need to do. And now the ravens are actually helping. And to me, it almost looks like, rather than, you know, the boat that's floating away with the ferrymen and the huddled figures that are in the Rider-Waite-Smith, this to me almost looks like she's already crossed the body of water on her journey, and she's being pulled to shore by these helpful ravens. So the wind, the air, the energy is pushing her towards her next steps. And she's wearing this red cape of just triumph and energy, and she's got lightly packed, you know. So sometimes we just need to sort out what really is ours to carry. You know, the Ten of Wands comes to mind as, you know, prioritize, delegate, and really decide how you want to move forward. And this is a big yes. As blessings coming in and what we want to work on and manifest, this is a yes that we are moving forward. But we're going to have to get clear in our own mind and get rid of this clutter and anxiety and just that kind of almost an icky feeling of something that's holding us back, okay? All right, so we have 2 swords so far. So now we're going to kind of take a look at what I would call maybe blocks that are sort of things that we need to be aware of. And it's interesting that we got the Page of Swords. So we're still in that air sign. And I so shuffled this deck because I've been using it for my videos, and I just wanted to make sure it was totally mixed up, and I did do that. So we got the Page of Swords. Which we also had this week in the deck that I used for our weekly reading. So here she comes again. Curiosity, learning, seeking out knowledge. Sometimes admitting that we don't know everything. Lots of bright ideas here. But when we want to flip this to kind of think about what blocks might be getting in our way, don't get too stuck in your head, but also don't think that you got it all figured out, and you don't need to dig in and ask questions and do the research. You know, sometimes I like that they've got her kind of balancing on this sword. So it's a rather precarious position to be in. But I would also say, don't let the block be that you're just stuck in the book stuff. You know, sometimes we've got to let the bright idea lift us up and run with it, and be ready to make that forward momentum move us in the right direction. A great card. I love that we got this in 2 different decks in this week's reading. And I think it was actually for today and tomorrow that the Page of Swords showed up, because Sunday and Monday was the Queen of Swords, and Tuesday and Wednesday was the Page of Swords. So that's, to me, a really cool thing, that we're getting that synchronicity and that strong message again. So do go back and listen to that, because I can't remember right now what came forward with that reading. But again, clearly, bright ideas are coming forward. Don't block them. Birds, to me, are always messengers. They're bringing messages in from a higher power, from the other side. So be attuned with your intuition to that. All right. Now we're going to take a look at opportunities. And boy, we have got solid earth sign, 3 of Pentacles, collaboration, inspiration, creativity, working together with other people to make something bigger than the sum of itself. So the opportunities here are really opening up. If we do this other work, are really opening up with this full moon and showing us that things that we are working on are really going to knock it out of the park. But we have to bring in that other bright ideas, those other people's opinions. Now, in the weekly reading, we got the 5 of Wands, which is kind of that norming, storming, figuring it out, kind of standing your ground kind of card in the expanded career reading. So this, again, ties very nicely to that collaboration is going to happen. You know, we're going to move forward in one direction, and we're going to be able to make something beautiful out of that effort. And everyone has something to bring to the table. Never forget that. Leadership really came up this week too. So step into the leadership role if you feel called to do that. We really want you to use your creativity and use your voice, that communication piece again with the swords. And again, 3 swords in this reading, several swords in the weekly reading. Communication is key, and being clear and honest and true to yourself and standing in that truth and saying it. You know, you have the right to be heard, and you also have the right to step into the leadership role. But it's going to happen, I think. The 5 of Wands energy is going to dissipate because we have to go through those cycles. That's another thing about the Moonology card was, you know, these cycles have to happen. And that's how we grow, and that's how we move forward. So anyway, this is what we have.